YouTube, it's Rebecca, and I wanted to talk today about not doing things out of spite that are going to come back at you, because I am about to dye my hair to like a chocolatey kind of red color because I'm tired of this green hair. I did it for a really dumb reason, except sort of dumb. It was definitely an immature reason, and it didn't even work. And then I've been stuck with it, so I wanted to talk about that. So a couple months ago, back in March, I was going on a trip to see my dad in Florida, and I had this idea that I wanted to dye my hair a crazy color, which I've done in the past. Like, this isn't like totally out of character for me. I've done my hair purple before. That lasted about a week, which was disappointing because I actually wanted that to stick longer and it just didn't. And I've had pink hair, I have had blue hair, like not necessarily all over, but I've had streaks. I have had all over color. My mother is a hairdresser, and well, she's not currently a hairdresser, but she is a cosmetologist, she has a license, and she has had that my whole life. So dyeing my hair was never a really big deal in the house. But my dad's parents definitely always like have had opinions of like how people look, and they're kind of whatever, and like, I don't know. I have issues with my dad's family. I love them dearly, but we do not always get along. And so I did something that was kind of lame. I knew that everyone was going to be there while I was there. Everyone was on spring break, and my grandparents were down there for that half of the year because they live in Ohio during the summer and Florida during the colder months, which is, you know, very normal for a lot of people, but it's still weird to me that they do that, but they do that. And so they were going to be there, and my cousins and my uncle and everyone were going to be there. And my dad and his sister live down there year round now. And so I was like, I have this crazy color that I want to do, and I'm going to do it tonight before I'm supposed to get on a plane in the morning. And so I did that. I went through the whole process myself, which wasn't terribly difficult. It's just a Manic Panic. I used Voodoo Blue, which I came to realize later is one of the reasons I still have Voodoo Blue, like greenish hair. That's what I used, and I just did it myself, and I left it on for 6 hours. Because there's really no upper limit. Because it's veggie dye, you can really leave it on for really long. And when I did the purple, which was the Manic Panic, and I can't remember what color that was I used, but it was a purpley color, I ended up leaving it on for 3 hours. And after 3 hours, it still washed out in a week. And I wanted it to have a little bit more staying power, especially because I was going to go swimming and stuff, and I didn't want it to come out immediately. And that came back to bite me really hard because I was there for a week, for like a couple days. It wasn't even a week. It was like, it ended up being like 3 and then a partial day. And it, first off, had no shock value. Like, they didn't care. My other cousin actually had like a bluish minty color at the back of her hair that like was already fading out and stuff, and so they're obviously at the point where it doesn't bother them that much, and nobody had an issue with it. And that's kind of what I get for being spiteful and doing it to see if it would get a reaction. Like, I'm 25 now, and I was 24 at the time, and I'm way too old for that shit, and I shouldn't have done it. But I get so bugged by them sometimes, and I have a lot of issues with them, and there's not really a good way to work them out because of how crazy everything is between us. Like, I just kind of go, and when I see them, I just sit and bear whatever it is that happens with them. And I love them, I do, and some of the things like we do together are really nice, and like sometimes I have a good time with them, but then other times it's like, just exhausting BS that I don't want to deal with. So yeah, I did that, and I went, and the color looked really good. And then after being home for another week, it still hadn't washed out, and I was like, oh, so it's got a little bit more staying power. That's not bad. I'd be happy with keeping it for a month. And that was mid-March, and now it is July, and it's still fucking green. It's green, it's so green, and I found out a couple months ago that the reason is that Voodoo Blue has a lot more staying power than other Manic Panic colors. Apparently, it just sticks. And now I'm just aggravated with it. I just want my hair to be normal again, because first off, it always looks like it's actually pretty clean right now. I had a shower this morning, my hair was clean, it looked fine. And now it looks freaking greasy again because my roots have grown out a good amount and they're kind of like a dark, dusty brown. And so the green with the brown roots, actually it makes it look like the top of my head is super freaking greasy. And I don't know why. And it's looked like that from almost like that's like 2 weeks after I dyed it. It started to look like that with the outgrowth. And I was just like, gonna let it fade out because it should fade out. It's not supposed to be like super sticking. It was just supposed to be temporary, and it wasn't. And that's why you don't do shit like this out of spite. Like, if you want to dye your hair to dye your hair for fun, do that. Because, like, honestly, the one thing I will say is, at the end of the day, it's hair. It'll grow back. You can cut it. You can do whatever if you want to do that for yourself. But don't do something with the idea of, oh, I'll do this to piss someone off. That's a terrible idea. And at least with the hair, if you do something like that, it's fixable. But don't do stuff like get a tattoo to piss like some family member off who would have a problem with tattoo. Don't do stuff like that, because it's just gonna hurt you in the end, and then you're stuck with it until you do something else. Like I end up paying for a ton of hair color that I'm about to use. Like, we're gonna do brown for the roots, and then we have to add a whole bunch of red. We have to add a ton of red filler color to get the green out, because otherwise it'll just come back through whatever we dye. And I don't want that shit. I just want normal hair again. I don't want to deal with this. It just never looks as good as I want it to, and frankly, I'm getting tired of it. And that's the whole thing. Just make your own mistakes, really do it, but learn from mine. Don't make my mistakes. Don't do stupid temporary or even semi-permanent or worse, permanent stuff to spite people, because it's just gonna come back at you. So, alrighty, hopefully by tomorrow's video, I will have a totally new hair color, which will be fantastic, and I probably won't feel like a greasy sea monster all the time. Alrighty, good night everybody.